Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the December 5th Trinity County Fire Safe Council meeting. I am your new, I'm your new chairman, from what I understand. I may look familiar. I was your chairman last year and the year before. Philip Seamy with Trinity County OES. We're going to run through some welcome and introductions, and then we'll get started. We will go ahead and I guess we'll just start on the list here. Carol, Paul.
Hi, everybody. This is Carol Fall, Trinity Center Volunteer Fire Department and North Lake area.
Thank you, Carol. I saw Cindy.
Hi, I'm Cindy Childress with the Neuromic Wintu Nation.
Thank you, Cindy. I get everybody in here. Let's see. Can we go with there you go. Thank you. That makes it a little easier. Is that Tom up there up in the upper right, I believe? Caltrans.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Yeah, Tom March, Caltrans, District 2, covering Trinity County.
Thank you. Dylan.
All right, Dylan Kirkley, RCD.
Thank you, Dylan. Jerry Cousins.
Hi, everybody. Jerry Cousins with the Trinity County Collaborative, and today I have to sign off at about 2:30.
All right, Jerry, thank you. Tom Carroll.
This is Mike Allen, BLM.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say who's Malin? Mike Allen.
Oh yeah, M. Allen, Mike Allen, Reading BLM.
Thank you, Mike. And I can't see anything today. Looks like we have Dave from
Dale Lang.
Okay, Dave. Let's see.
Dave DeLang, Trinity Public Utilities District. That's what you just said. All right.
Thanks, Dave. Joel. Joel, would you like to do an introduction? Okay. Maybe not. How about Robert?
Yeah, Bob Doucette with the Shasta Trinity National Forest.
Thank you, Bob. Gina Moon.
Good afternoon, everybody. Gina Moon here. I am a neighborhood ambassador for the Salyer neighborhoods, including the South Fork County Road. And I am also with the Willow Creek Fire Safe Council.
Thank you, Gina. I think that's it, other than we have somebody on the phone.
9925.
9925.
Hi guys, it's Timber. I'm from the Trinity Journal.
Oh, thank you, Kimber.
Timber with a T.
Oh, Timber. Trinity Journal. Okay, we'll go ahead and go around the room. We'll go ahead and start down this way.
Hi, my name is Shay Callahan. I'm the new Forest Health Project Program Manager. I'm taking over for Bethany.
Nice, welcome.
Ellie Sheen, I'm the District Manager for the Trinity County Resource Conservation District.
Jill Cox, Board of Supervisors. Skylar Fisher, Fire Safe Council County Coordinator with BRCD.
Emily Acer, Grizzly Corps for the Fire Safe Council.
Emily Drain with Project Coordinator with the Fire Safe Council.
Crystal Hodges, GIS, Trinity County RCD.
Jessica.
Oh, Jessica. Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm with Laura.
Okay.
Off screen we have.
And my name's Miles. I'm the Education Coordinator for the TCRCD.
Okay. We haven't, everybody got the agenda this, today? If there's any, anybody have any additions or to the agenda?
So this is Carol, and
Yeah.
I'm wondering, we want to at least find out if the Fire Safe Council would like to send some sort of comment to the Forest Service on the North Trinity County Communities Risk Reduction Project that's out for scoping right now.
Okay. And do we have any other, besides Jerry, do we have any other early departures that would like, that need to report out first? Okay, hearing none. We have a item 3, which discussion on the wildfire camera update.
I think that's me. This is Jerry, and I made some notes so that I can make sure I cover everything. Hi, everybody. So far this year, we have there are 2 new cameras downriver on Bald Hills and Horse Mountain. The camera on Ironside is stalled for the winter. The Forest Service Heritage Department is doing its consultation with the tribes, and once that's completed, it will go out for a 30-day scoping period. I wasn't told directly, but I overheard Ben Sundall's report to the supervisors that it was determined to use Velocity's existing tower on Iron Mountain, rather than the other option was building a new structure or having the Forest Service radio shop do something. So glad to hear that they picked the simplest way forward for Iron Mountain. And hopefully that will all be done by the spring. And then additionally, there are 7 other permits that have been approved and processed and paid for by Digital Path, the company in Chico. And they were hoping to get 1 up this year, but the weather didn't allow it. So 6 new cameras will be put up by next fire season. And I'll give you the list of those. It's Hayfork Bali Lookout, Tom Head Lookout, Lime Dyke Lookout, Knob Peak, Picket Peak Lookout, and Bear Mountain. So those will be put up. So quite a few cameras, hopefully by next fire season, will be operational. And I think that's everything I know about cameras at this point, although just to feed Carol, we will be talking about the North Lake later this winter, after we get these through. It's on the list.
Okay, so
Raise hand.
sorry, I couldn't find the button fast enough. So just went the old-fashioned way. I think the Bonanza King NEPA is in the North Trinity County Communities Risk Reduction Project scoping to have the environmental documents done.
Great.
And then the second North Trinity County camera would be on Velocity's tower, which is on SPI, which is private land. So, but I had a question yesterday from SPI because they want to know how they can help facilitate the progress because they're worried that there's no cameras up here. And so their question was, once the permitting is done for Bonanza King, who's paying for the camera and the installation and the long-term maintenance? Do we know that yet?
No, I don't. And those are always the questions. The 6 cameras I spoke of that are coming out, they're all PG&E sponsored. So my first goal will go back to Digital Path in Chico and ask them to approach PG&E for sponsorship.
Okay, for the two North Lake ones.
That's what I'm going to start with.
Okay, I think the one on Velocities Tower, you know, Travis has said he would, you know, have a reduced cost because he would
Right.
provide some of the you know, connectivity and all that, the power for free. But yeah, the Bonanza King one, which has the greater view shed, that one, you know, we're most interested in, but that one, we have no idea who's actually gonna pay to install it or, you know, operate it long term. Okay, so if you can check and find out, that would be awesome. Thank you, Jerry.
Details to be determined.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jerry, for that update.
You bet.
Okay, any grant reports to?
Well, did we want to discuss the North Trinity project scoping? Carol, did you want to lead that discussion about the Fire Safe Council potentially submitting a letter?
Okay, sure. So the scoping letter for the North Trinity County Communities Risk Reduction Project, also known as the Highway 3 project, came out November 15th. 30-day scoping period, so comments are due, I think, by December 14th, if I calculate 30 days correctly. So that's the Highway 3 project is the one that has some sort of fuel reduction, shaded fuel breaks along Highway 3, along Rainier Road, along a lot of the Forest Service roads. It also includes, in addition to these forest fire management zones, it includes larger landscape projects. It includes the thinning of the plantations. It includes work around some campgrounds that weren't picked up under Trinity camps. Those are Horse Flat, Eagle Creek, and Trinity River. It includes let's see what else. Plantations, anyway, some ridgetop fuel breaks. So it's got a ton of stuff. The scoping letter is on the Forest Service website. You know, the one that they sent out is just real brief. You have to go to the website to get a lot more details, but even then, it's pretty sketchy. There's no prescriptions for, like, you know, what does a fire management zone or fuel management zone 300 feet on either side of the road look like. Mastication in some areas with trees up to 24-inch DBH, which is I don't know how you masticate a 2-foot diameter tree. So anyway, I just, I'm concerned that the scoping letter, it's 12,500 acres. It's huge. I'm concerned the scoping letter for that big of a project is pretty vague. They are proposing to use the emergency action declaration, which pretty much gives people 2 chances to comment during the initial scoping, which is now, and then during the when the EA comes out. There's no like evaluation of options because it's a shortened time frame. So anyway, I don't know what the fire, I mean, I think the Fire Safe Council for sure is generally supportive of large fuel reduction projects like this. I don't know if you guys want to say we're supportive, but you know, we don't have enough information to provide detailed comments. I'm just looking for some thoughts, feedback from you guys as far as what you might want to say about a project like this. I think Jerry has his hand up.
I haven't read it thoroughly, but it did not seem to reflect what we went out and saw on the ground. It just seems like you said, it's very sketchy and it just leaves a lot of open doors. But I'm not smart enough actually to respond well in a letter with those complaints.
I'm struggling with the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, from the fire department point of view, so we have next week, the Trinity Center CSD board is going to be adopting a fuel management plan. That fuel management plan has some pretty specific things in terms of where we want to see roadside fuel breaks and ridgetop fuel breaks and stuff like that. The CSD has already sent a letter in support of including trails in the project, which kind of are mentioned as a possibility in there. So the Trinity Center Community Services District is going to be providing more detailed comments. But again, I just don't know. I mean, I don't know if the Fire Safe Council wants to say anything or not.
I think that it might be worth sending a letter to say, like, as you were saying, Carol, that we are, of course, supportive of projects to increase wildfire resiliency, just in the county generally, but of course, to reduce risk in the North Lake region. But to also say that we hope that throughout this project that the community is engaged, and we hope that they're a little bit more transparent about what they're trying to do and to engage folks early. And then we can link that to the fact that we have projects in that area that have been discussed and have been highlighted by residents as their areas of concern, and that we hope that they take that into consideration.
Yeah, I think that would be a good strategy. And then, you know, specifically pointing out that we would kind of want more information on the specific prescriptions for their fuel management zones and I forget the second term is. Yeah. I know the collaborative has that concern that when we go out in the field and they talk versus what ends up in the, you know, being done, like we had a little bit of an issue with Trinity Camps project where what we understood in the field didn't quite match what the timber mark was. So somehow to just kind of add that caveat. So would this best approach be, Skylar, for you and I to work on a letter and send that out to everybody and get any comments or concerns and then submit it by the 14th of December?
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. And I saw that Bob put in the chat that it might be December 20th.
It's
It's
30
actually,
days.
it's 11:59 PM on the 18th.
Oh, on the 18th. Okay. So
Okay, because that's very confusing because the scoping letter says that it's 30 days from November 15th.
Yeah, I'm reading it on their electronic submission form right now. They're accepting comments through 12/18 at 11:59 PM.
maybe we can speak as well to kind of the confusion that came out of the notice as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because so we've been posting that notice all around the North Lake area. You know, I put it in the post office and all that, and we put it in the newspaper, and we said it's 30 days from November 15th. So if the notice they sent out is incorrect, that'd be good to know that somehow we can fix that.
Yeah, it even says 30 days here, but it doesn't give you a date, and then it just says your
Right, it
comments are
doesn't give you a
accepted.
date on the, so you, that's why I just counted 30 days from November 15th. Is that
this
30?
document unusually vague?
It Sounds like
Sounds
it.
like it is.
Yeah.
So when the last one that came out was for Trinity camps, and they actually had the prescriptions, you know, in terms of the basal square footage of trees that would be left and all that stuff, and none of that is in this scope. And part of it is because I don't think they know what they're doing. I'm sorry, I don't mean that came out wrong. They don't, they have out in the field, they've described a certain level of flexibility. So close to the roads, they would be doing a more intense fuel reduction. And then as you move further away, they describe this feathering, you know, so I don't know that they've managed to put into numbers kind of, well, if it's this steep and it's this close to the road, this will be the density. And then if it's further away from the road and it's more steep, this will be the density, because it's such a huge project. And so it's just hard to then evaluate exactly what they have in mind, because it's just, I don't know that they've really been able to quantify that yet. Oh, and Larry's online. Yay, Larry.
So this is a very confusing scoping. There's so information in different places on the internet, but one page I found actually has information saying that the comments are due by December 18th. So that's what it actually says in their document. So but yeah, this is a very confusing process. I think, speaking for SAFE, we're kind of concerned about the vagueness of all of this. And while, you know, doing fuel reduction projects along that corridor is a really important process, if it's not done right, it could be problematic and wind up causing more trouble down the road.
On the field tour, on the collaborative field tour that we went on, I do recall that each of the different stops had entirely different prescriptions. And I would wonder why they wouldn't have taken our feedback and then basically created maps with, I mean, even if they had, you know, numerous different prescriptions, it seems like they should geospatially be able to show that, you know, based on the units that they've identified.
Well, it's pretty hard for the public to comment on something as vague as this. So,
yeah, agreed.
So Larry, were you on earlier where Skylar and I were talking about writing just a very general letter that says we're in support of, you know, fuel reduction projects like this, but you know, and adding some sort of caveat that we don't have enough information here to really say whether or not we support the specific proposed actions.
I think you should make it very clear that there's just not enough specificity for Safe Council nor the public to make any intelligent response.
right. And particularly alarming is that they're doing this as an emergency action. So they've shortened the time frame for the public to even get involved, and then there's no ability to object to it. The only thing you could do if you didn't like the plan is to go to court over it, which doesn't seem very practical or desirable for anybody. So I would ask them to press pause, come out with more detail for the public to be able to better assess the plan. And sure, say we're always in favor of fuel reduction projects. That's great. But we need to know what this one actually looks like.
So Larry, I mean, if you say press pause, It would be for the purpose of coming up with more detailed prescriptions for each kind of like where they're gonna have fuel management zones versus the more forest health kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And what exactly they're going to do in each one of those zones, because that's not clear from reading this to me.
Okay, I mean, is there a risk then that the whole project goes away?
No.
Would Bob be able to answer that? I mean, because I'm just, it's under the
No, we've
wildfire
had-
crisis strategy, and I just don't know.
We've had the Forest Service put plans on pause before and reissue scoping. That's happened before,
But
or extend the scoping period for longer. They could do that easily.
well, extending the scoping period wouldn't necessarily help if what you're asking them to do is come back with the more detailed prescriptions, right?
Well, I'm pretty sure they have them. They just need to give them to us.
I'm
Okay.
wondering if they're, with the transition of the TRM, I mean, the National Recreation Area to the Trinity River Management Unit, I'm wondering if they're just trying to expedite this in order to get it done before that happens.
Because this one stays with the NRA, right? This is.
Well, they said that it would, or that there would be some level of, they said that there would be some level of communication between the NRA and that in the TRMU, but so I don't know if it's transitioning entirely or in part, but I just would wonder if that's why they seem to be kind of ramrodding it.
Or maybe it's that the landscape team, isn't funded as a landscape team anymore and that they are being absorbed into the staff positions at the Forest Service. And, oh, sorry, I see Bob has his hand up, so maybe he can help figure out the time crunch issue.
Oh, I can probably help a little bit. But ultimately the area around the Trinity Lakes is going to go into the TRMU. So I don't know if those two things have anything to do with each other. In terms of like the details and stuff like that, and the concerns you guys have been laying out there, I'll go ahead and I'll make sure to pass that on. But if you guys you want to say something specific and list out specific concerns and stuff like that, I think everyone would be very welcome to see that kind of a letter or something like that for sure, because we definitely don't want to look like we're just trying to jam this thing through, while also knowing we need to get to work in that area. And I just asked Callan Keller, I messaged her about the timing of when our deadline is, and she was saying December 20th. So again, apologies for any confusion on that, but December 20th, from what I've been told, is the date for the public comment on that. So, but yeah, I'll be sure to make sure that the right people hear kind of the concerns you guys are laying out today. But do go ahead if you feel the need to draft something with your concerns so you guys can have that in writing for the folks that are working on this project.
So
Who should they go to?
I'd talk to Sarah. And also, send anything like that to Callan Keller as well. She's kind of heading up the kind of shepherding this project right now. So I would definitely go to them.
Well, I think if the Forest Safe Council agrees, it definitely should be hard copy, a track record of the statement.
I agree. I think, we've had that issue in the past. I mean, I think anything that we want to provide input wise should be in writing. So, we're on record. So again, is it the 18th or the 20th?
It's the 20th. That's what I've been told.
How would we confirm that?
It
Like,
says in writing the 18th, so I
Yeah.
in my history of dealing with the agency, whatever they say in writing is what you have to go by.
We can just be early.
Yeah, right, there's time. So if a couple of folks would get together to draft a letter and then send it out real quick.
We're all for early,
Okay.
but yeah, and I think part of that too is the feedback that you guys give in that is gonna go definitely towards the overall project. So I don't want to put words in the mouths of the folks that are running the project, so I'm not going to do that here. But I do hear you, and they're going to want to know what you guys are thinking too.
So if no one objects, what we can, next steps can be Carol and I can talk next week and work throughout the week to draft a letter and aim to have a draft of it to send to the rest of the council. We can aim for Monday, the 16th. And if there's any other additional feedback or requests for revisions, we can incorporate that and then aim to have it in on the 18th. Is about like a 2.5 day review period work for everyone? Okay, is there anything else that folks want to be considered in the drafting that hasn't already been discussed? Okay.
Great. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol, for bringing that up. Okay, next item is Fire Safe Council Coordinator update. As soon as she's done writing.
I'm writing down everything I just said, just so I don't forget it.
Oh, we'll hold you to it, don't worry.
Okay. Okie doke.
Hey, Philip, before we go to, sorry, Skylar, before we go, just on the grants, I'm just curious, the Community Wildfire Defense Grant round 3 was just announced. I'm wondering if any entities are pursuing those and in what capacity, if any.
At this,
I don't believe that the RCD is going to be doing that, and I'm not sure that I haven't heard anything about whether the watershed center would be.
Okay, I was just curious if anybody was. I mean, obviously we were awarded the round 2. Just heard back with 3 weeks ago that they are beginning to pursue the funding for that, and I was just curious if there was any projects or anybody that was looking to pursue round 3. So that's it.
We're still waiting for our agreement.
Me too.
okay. So where to begin? Since our last meeting, the Fire Safe Council published an anonymous homeowners insurance survey. That survey ran for a month from November 4th through December 4th. And so being the 5th, it closed yesterday. And during that time, we had 380 responses from residents. So still in the process of reviewing that data and the information that we got from it, but plan to, at the next Fire Safe Council meeting, share those findings with the Fire Safe Council and also have a letter drafted that we can submit to the County Board of Supervisors so that they can see all of the findings and input that residents have submitted through that survey. The County Hazard Mitigation Plan went to the County Board of Supervisors this week and it was approved. So very exciting. So that was kind of a muted recounting from me, but I was kind of doing a jig in the board chambers. I was very happy, did a running
We
high
were
five with
high-fiving.
Philip. Yeah. So,
Outside the chambers.
yeah. So, yeah, very excited now the work begins on implementing the mitigation strategy. I see Jerry has his hand raised.
Thanks. I just wanted to go back to the insurance survey. So you're going to tabulate the information. You're going to then submit a letter of the findings to the Board of Supervisors. And I know this is probably for Jill. Insurance has been on the supervisor's agenda pretty regular. Where does that go from you if the findings are meaningful and show some difficulties? What's the next step up the chain?
I'm not exactly sure, Jerry. That's probably up for some discussion, but I will tell you, I was going to just share this in my report out, but I can tell you now since it's part of the conversation. So the Forest Service provided a webinar for county commissioners and supervisors to just give us an overview of the Northwest Forest Management Plan Amendment Draft EIS. And I really appreciated that because they sort of spoke our language, right? Not your language. But following that meeting, I sent an email to the regional manager, Jacqueline Buchanan. And I was pleased that she responded back to me. And within that, I shared some of the findings in the early results that you had from the survey. And told at that time, it showed that 34% of Trinity County homeowners would consider going without fire insurance because they simply can't afford it. And I asked her, stop and think, like, God forbid we have the next campaign fire and we lose the same like 10 to 12% of our housing stock, and those people don't have fire insurance. Now let's wrap that around and start thinking about what that does to our tax base, what that does to our residents, what their options are left with, right? And so I think that results like this can be used in situations like that to really raise awareness. I'm just appreciative that Rick and Skylar took this up and created the survey and got it out there, because Rick had tried to get CSAC to do this generally statewide. And at first they were all over it, and then they just dropped the ball, and Rick kept trying to pick up the ball. And finally he said, fine, well, we'll just at least do it for Trinity County, and we have these results. So I think that we can like all kind of think of arenas where results from this can help people to really start to connect dots on, I mean, it touches so many things, right? To answer your question, Jerry, I don't know, but there's got to be so many, right? Like we probably need to do that thinking and say, where else can this information be impactful? Because it's going to be. And I think if anything too, maybe Rick now takes the results to CSAC and says, we really do need these results statewide. Because it's just not going to be acceptable to not have folks with, the insurance issue alone.
Yeah, well, Jill, will you just continue to make sure it's on the supervisor's agenda so it just doesn't get shuffled off to the side?
Most certainly.
Thank you.
Skylar, I know that you're working like at least regionally, if not statewide, with other fire safe council coordination efforts. As that's kind of part of funding through California Fire Safe Council. Has there been any discussion about expanding a survey like this out to other fire safe councils throughout the state, and or potentially, other RCDs that are doing similar, I guess, coordination?
So before we published the survey, I had a meeting with a coordinator with United Policyholders, and they are part of like a statewide working group regarding insurance and how it's been impacted by wildfire risk. And just to discuss the survey and to see like if there were any questions we could add to make it more meaningful so we could advocate for the county. And when I spoke with her, she had mentioned that that group had tried to do like a statewide survey, but they got so few responses from Trinity County that we became like a no data, like it was an insufficient amount of engagement. So they were very excited that we were leading a local effort, because then they could potentially use that to fill those gaps. Because my understanding is when we come up as a no data, then we're essentially left out of the conversation. We're like grayed out. So very excited that we have this. And as Jill said, even the preliminary results that we were getting show us as outliers across the state. So
Well, I guess that's why I'm bringing it up, is because we have a network of people that we know are doing similar, coordination efforts elsewhere, even within just the RCD network. We could be expanding that throughout the state in a less formal route. Like I get those emails from United policyholders also, and they are definitely taking a very high overview of how this policy stuff is changing. And it seems very slow moving in comparison to, what we generally, how nimble we are generally speaking. So knowing that we could potentially have a lot of folks that would be able to be responsive to it, something like this, and to get it out to their constituents, it would be, instead of a blip, it would be like, here's what we're, this is what we're seeing throughout the region or the state, I guess is my point.
Kelly, I think that'd be a great idea to use your network to expand this.
I have a meeting with a representative with the California Fire Safe Council on Monday, and I would be happy to bring up some of those results that we got from the survey and make the recommendation. Because I think it would be cool if maybe there's a coordinated effort after this where multiple county fire safe councils are all promoting a local survey at the same time, and we really have it on the forefront of everyone's mind, and then we're getting more meaningful data and participation.
And they probably have a better mailing list than, some office out of Sacramento, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
Well, and my thought too is if United policyholders said that Trinity County wasn't responding, and so then we end up being left off, but you got a great response, can they partner with you so that they utilize your mailing list and we put ourselves on the map?
That's the hope, and like me attending those meetings and trying to see what efforts they're doing and then sharing them like in our newsletter or on our social media or however. But I do think Kelly is right that, I think residents are just much more responsive when they see something that is locally driven rather than statewide. But it's just about trying to figure out all the things that are happening and making people know, because that's, I think, the biggest challenge is there are so many things happening.
And unless there's something proprietary about the survey you sent out, I would suggest you offer to share it. It would be move things forward faster, and it would be a much more cohesive response if everybody's using the same document.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it could be opened up just, like as a shared link, and you could just say, this is what we're doing. If you can share it within your network, and then we'd add information about like what county they're from and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Then there would be a repository of it. We wouldn't have to actually rebuild everything or sort of consolidate that data later, which would be probably much more difficult, potentially, but it could be widened pretty easily.
Good.
Any other discussion on the survey?
Well, after it's been out there, I mean, I know we put our heads together before it went out and said, okay, have we covered everything? Or if there are any other questions we should have asked that we didn't? And I couldn't see any at the time until I actually took the survey from my own perspective. And then I did see a couple of things that I went, wait a second, I have a situation that's a little different than what I see being asked. And I feel like that data, other people could be like me. So before I get that, to your point, it'd be great if it was identical, everybody that shares it. But if this is a juncture at which we think we might want to add an extra question or two,
Yeah.
maybe we should do that before we
Yeah,
share it.
yeah, for sure. I had
Okay.
a similar situation with a couple of the questions where like this applies and this applies.
Yes.
And couldn't do both.
Yeah.
So it was like one or the other in a couple of the questions.
Yeah, and I had one area where, wait a minute, I am having an impact that actually isn't stated on here as an option.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy to receive any input on the survey before we start sharing
Okay.
that out as like a template. Okay, moving along on the update, shifting gears a little bit to our home assessment program. In November, we hosted 2 home assessment trainings. One was a 2-day training in Xenia of the Kenton Palm Xenia VFD. So we did the wildland fire assessment program, like not virtual, but the classroom training for a day. And then the next day we did a 2 mock home assessment to train folks with the Kenton Palm Xenia VFD. And then the day after that, drove to downriver and did a in-person the mock home assessment training with the downriver fire company. And I say we, but this was Emily and Miles. So thank you very much for traveling from Xenia up to Big Bar over the course of 3 days. So as always, promoting our home assessment program, you receive a free home assessment, and your VFD, if under contract, receives a stipend and gas coverage for performing a wonderful home assessment for you. The Trinity County Community Wildfire Protection Plan is moving along. I've been working a lot with Crystal to get the projects brought up in our community meetings digitized. Initially, we were hoping to have a partner meeting at the end of this year, but the end of this year is kind of here. So we're now planning to do that early next year. For the evacuation plan, the revisions of the evacuation routes based on the community input are complete. With 11 by 17 layouts, we have roughly 100 evacuation routes layouts maps. So those are currently being solidified cartographically, and then we are going to run a hazard risk analysis on each of those routes to better understand which are most at risk to different hazards, and which communities really only have one way in, one way out. For the Trinity County Firewise Fair, mark your calendars. It will be on May 3rd in the Hayfork Park. So we're going to be the same location we were at last year. But this year we're reaching out very early to make sure that there isn't 4 other events on the same day. We're trying to say, hey, this is our day. It's Wildfire Awareness Day. So very excited. Emily has been leading these efforts. We've already been talking with the Hayfork VFD. They're excited. There's a lot of awesome new ideas to improve upon the success of this year. Miles led a neighborhood ambassador appreciation and kickoff event this week, which went great. For our Firewise communities, renewal applications were submitted. So we're currently talking with the regional coordinators to make sure everything's buttoned up and good there so we can be recertified for 2025. For fall community chipping, there were about 135 properties which received free chipping services. And I want to shout out who had no sign up. So in order, Trinity Center, Hayfork, Lewiston, Weirville, and Hawkins Bar. So great job, Trinity Center. I think there was about 17 applications for chipping. I did want to call out because we don't have somebody with CAL FIRE online. So per the newest press release, CAL FIRE burn permits are no longer required, but you still need air quality. There was something a little different this year, which was, this is going to sound weird at the start, but bear with me. When burn permits are required, they are required. Previously, the North Coast Air Quality Permit would suffice for a standard burn permit. So the CAL FIRE permit did not have to be requested as redundancy. But the Humboldt Del Norte unit has been requiring both. So now CAL FIRE, Shasta Trinity have decided to follow suit to simplify the process. So we had some questions about that when burn permits were allowed. Was like, well, do I need to do the other burn permit? Can I just do the air quality? So right now, burn permits are not required, so you don't have to worry about it. But when burn permits are required, you have to do both the air quality and the CAL FIRE. But as always, you always have to do the air quality. Make sure that you're consistent with what they need. Finally, we have a new team member. We have a new project coordinator, Miss Emily Drain, who will be helping us with our planning efforts and with our Firewise community maintenance. And as I said, she's been leading the Firewise Fair planning, which has been super duper helpful. So Emily, if you don't mind saying a few words, introduce yourself.
Of course. My name is Emily Drain. I am a Hayfork native and have recently returned after 11 years. I have previous experience at the Santa Clara County Fire Safe Council and some other organizations in the fire world, and I am very excited to be back home and working the RCD and the Fire Safe Council.
Happy to have you here. Okay, and that's, yeah, go. I will take any questions.
Any questions for Skylar on any of the items that she brought up? Seeing none, we will move on to project updates. And we will start with Mike with BLM.
Hello. So just some updates I got for you guys. So in the Reading Indian Creek area, we were able to do 2 broadcast burns, unit 7 and 6. That might not mean anything, but I believe one was 54 acres, unit 7, and 88 acres for unit 6. We've been burning piles in the Little Browns Creek area. Just the weather hasn't been good, a little bit too dry, and then air quality has kind of shut us down because of the wind. There was no wind. We didn't want to smoke in that Weaverville area, so we've held up on burning in Trinity County now. We're just waiting for a little bit more weather and a little bit more wind so we can get back in there. So the plan, once that happens, is continue into Little Browns Creek and getting those piles. I think about 35 acres left in the units 1, 2, and 3. Then we have 120 acres in the unit 4. And then we have some piles in the Reading Indian Creek area, units 1 and 2, I believe. So once we get a little better weather, we'll be going back into there. Also, what else? The Weaverville Community Forest area, they'll be going into year 2 of that option year 1 of cutting and piling in there. So there's 97 acres there from year 1 last year. So just with some better weather and a little manpower, we'll be burning those piles while the contractors, I talked to them, they're going to be starting up after the new year. We've also been in talks. We had a big meeting with the Shasta Trinity about the Shasta and Trinity fuel break divide. So that's a big topic around here and with them, that they're planning on putting a big fuel break that separates the counties. It's a 5 to 10 year plan. They're still doing a lot of research. The fuel break would go through, Forest Service land, BLM, and SPI. So it's a lot of coordination and a lot of getting the same specs and making sure we're all on the same page to carry out that. It's a big project, huge project actually. So doing that with them. We did help the Shasta Trinity do a prescribed fire up there a few months ago. I wasn't there myself, but I heard it went well. So we're trying to help out our counterparts as best we can. We've been working with the Trinity RCD. They're helping out with the piles when we can. And then I've been coordinating with Shay a little bit about sending her some of our costs for grant purposes so they can match them and stuff like that. So that's an ongoing process. I haven't been to a meeting in a while. I've been in and out of office quite a bit, and that'll continue to happen a little bit. So if those that don't know, I've recently had a baby with the wife, so I've been on maternity leave here and there. So if you were like, where's BLM? I haven't been around. Just, you know, playing the game of having a newborn and working the job and staying home and doing that. So if you're wondering where we were, that's where I've been. I never got a counterpart hired. Just didn't have very good candidates, but we're still working on it and stuff like that. So we're still continuing our efforts in Trinity County. We're still looking at some projects, you know, like I said, with the Forest Service, and then trying to get some more of our own, like the Union Hill area, and then the Junction City parcels is a project we're looking at right there to get some fuel reduction done. So if there's any questions, you can call it out right now. I'm happy to answer.
Congratulations, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mike?
Was it a boy or a girl?
I had a baby girl, Nora. She's about 2.5 months old and quite the handful, as sure some of you know.
That's awesome.
Good enough. Okay, we'll move on to Caltrans with Mike or Tom March.
Everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey there. So currently we're working on our maintenance efforts. Now that we're out of fire season, working on the dead tree removals along Highway 3, going from Weaverville up through Trinity Center, trying to get the approvals on those. And then those are individual tree removals that pose a threat to the roadway. And then we were still working on our environmental clearance for the project from Hayfork to Douglas City on trying to create a fuel break along that route. There are many other maintenance activities that you probably see throughout the year, but I can't, there's so many, I can't keep track of them with Caltrans. We have 7 counties, so yeah, it becomes a handful. What else was there? Those are two of the biggest projects that we're working on at this time, and just listening in on the projects that come up to the road and trying to focus our efforts to complement that and take that fuel break or whichever the project is and tie it in all the way to the white line. So there you go. Any questions?
Yeah, hey, Tom. So, is Caltrans going to comment on that North Trinity counties, the Highway 3 project? Do you know?
I have not heard about it at this time, only just today, what you have been saying. If it's, so I'll look into it.
Yeah, because one of the questions that has come up is, so they're planning a shaded fuel break or a fuel management zone along Highway 3. And there, in some areas, there's quite a, wide band of Caltrans right away till you get to the Forest Service property. And so, potentially you're driving up Highway 3 and you would see a bunch of trees right along the road that are in the Caltrans right away before you get to further away, and then you hit the Forest Service property. So it's only a few places, but I was wondering if that might be something that Caltrans would want to coordinate somehow with Forest Service so that that shaded fuel break or the fuel break is actually functional and contiguous all the way, from the highway, out. I don't know if
Correct.
it's making any
Yeah.
sense, but
No, it does. We don't want to leave anything, he said, she said, I thought you were going to take care of it. No, I thought you were going to take care of it. And so we'll look into that. For the most part, a lot of Trinity is Forest Service or BLM or privately owned land. We just have an easement. So this ownership, if it's a right-of-way easement, it still means it's owned by somebody else besides Caltrans. But I will look into it and try to get a response sent, and hopefully next meeting I can inform you about what we find.
Tom, one example of that where the road right of way is actually built into the parcel fabric is right through Covington Mill and the area like up to Long Canyon. And
Yeah.
it's very wide through that area with very specific set, like, like parcels that represent that that right of way. So I don't know what the difference is between those parcels in those areas versus like the easements that you were referring to, where the highway is just essentially going through the Forest Service property. But that's one area to look at.
Yeah, that's because I live that part, and that's exactly what I was thinking about is, where there's a substantial Caltrans ownership before you get to where the Forest Service property kicks in, right along the highway.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look into it and try to make a response before the deadline and make sure that it's being addressed and not forgotten.
Perfect. Great. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.
Any other questions for Tom? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to Jessica with Flora.
Not really any new updates for us.
Okay,
Chugging along.
all right.
Does anyone have any questions for Flora?
Any questions for Jessica? Nothing? Okay, we will move down to Cindy with No Realm Up.
Hi, I don't really have any updates, except for, letting you guys know that, we are about ready to sign our lease with the Forest Service. However, they are requiring us to remove the fuel tank. And the fuel tank will be we are donating it to the Big Bar Volunteer Fire Department. And so other than that, it has to be triple washed first and then it can be moved. So that's about it.
Okay, any questions for Cindy? Seeing none, we'll jump down to Larry with Safe.
Okay, we've been having in our function with the Trinity Collaborative, we've been having great deal of discussions. Jerry Cousins helped facilitate a meeting the other day where we realized it's time after 10 years to kind of update our white paper on roadside shaded fuel breaks. So we had a very productive meeting yesterday over that, and I think we're going to continue to meet and try and deal with the modern economics that we're facing, because when we came up with the roadside shaded fuel brake plan a decade ago, it was a different economy and different concerns with what could be done or not done. So we have to adjust to that, but I think we're going to make some good progress moving forward with that. And we've already talked about the North Trinity Lake project. That's definitely on SAFE's radar. So we'll see. Hopefully Sarah can give us some more time and some more specifics so we can play a better role in commenting on that project. That's it. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Larry. I'm going to jump over to Jerry Cousins because he's got to leave in about 20 minutes. So Jerry, do you want to go ahead? Do you have any other report out that you'd like to do?
Oh, thanks. I just wanted to add to what Larry said is that besides just looking at the economics of a 10-year-old shaded fuel brake, we're also looking to expand the prescription into a more landscape approach and dealing with denser forests. We feel that the underlying tenet of the shaded fuel brake along roads still holds, looking to leave the best trees and diminish the possibility of brush. But a subcommittee has been formed to start drafting that. That'll come back to the collaborative for review. I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Okay, Carol, do you have anything else to report out on?
I do.
Good.
So, you guys have heard this before, but it's actually getting done. So, at the Trinity Center CSD board meeting next week, we are going to be reviewing and approving, both our, wildfire management plan and our, fuel management plan. So, the, wildfire response plan, I just want to say, so the impetus for that was during the river complex when the incident management team and the other private insurance company firefighters showed up and said, okay, where's this? How do who do I talk to about that? Whatever. And we were scrambling for information. So we compiled it all in our wildfire response plan. So it has things like all the contact information, the organization, how, who to contact, the CSD versus the VFD. It has descriptions of our equipment, the hydrants, the drafting locations, the airport and who to contact, how to, use the airport as a heliport, all the facilities, personnel. It's got all our wildfire communications. So like the where does Norwegian repeater work versus where does Carville repeater work, that kind of stuff. It's got a medical plan. It's got our documents, like the agreement with the Forest Service. It has different fire response zones. So for each one of our parts of the CSD, it describes the weather patterns, where safety zones are, where evacuation zones are. Anyway, it's just a lot of information designed to, here's our plan. Here's the information hopefully you need. Some of it's things like they want to know where they can have a community meeting, where's Wi-Fi, who has generators if the power goes out, all that stuff. That's all in there. And then it also has a long list of recommendations, kind of our to-do list. And so it's things like getting the alert wildfire cameras installed. It's all the stuff like upgrading some of our repeaters and putting our hydrant testing information online and all that stuff. So hopefully never really need it, but it is our wildfire response plan. So I sent Skylar a draft, and once the board approves it, then if people want it, she can send it out to people, or if people want it, maybe they can ask her for it, because I think it would be a useful thing for other fire departments to have, that basically says, here's the phone numbers, here's where the hydrants are, here's where, whatever, here's the community center, and here's who you call if you need to reserve it for a wildfire information meeting, all that kind of stuff. So that's our wildfire response plan. The second thing we have going to the board next week, our board next week, is the fuel management plan. That was written by Kenneth Baldwin. Essentially, Kenneth worked with all the people who are doing different projects in the North Lake. So this plan isn't as useful to the other fire departments as the wildfire response plan in terms of a template. The fuel management plan is pretty specific to the North Lake because so many projects are happening up here. It's hard to keep track of who's doing what where. So the fuel management plan maps all those out. Crystal has these spiffy maps, 11 by 17 map series that fairly detailed show you who's doing what where. And then Kenneth took that and overlaid it with, okay, we want to have roadside fuel breaks on these roads. We want to have ridgetop fuel breaks in these locations. And so in addition to the map series, the plan goes into detail describing all those, and it has specifications for the fuel breaks and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to be handing in part with our comments to North Trinity County Communities Risk Reduction Project. I wish they would come up with a shorter name. And asking them to essentially implement a lot of the fuel management plan that is on Forest Service lands. We're also working with SPI. You know, they have a copy of the draft to look at where they can implement the things we'd like to see on private property. So anyway, we're just trying to get our act together so we don't burn down. Okay, that's my report.
Carol, on your Trinity Center response plan, are there any other departments that have or doing or in the process of doing those in the county?
Not that I know of. The ones that I based ours on are from like Texas and stuff where they have pre-attack plans. So that's kind of, I've found nationally other fire departments doing them, but I have not found anybody in Trinity County. And that's where I'm glad to provide that to Skylar and she can send it out to the other fire departments. I'm going to also mention it at the chief's meeting on Monday and just say, hey, it wasn't that hard to just write down all that stuff because you know your area. So to write down, okay, here's who you call to reserve the hall. Here's where our hydrants are. We have a brush rig and a water truck, what equipment you have. I mean, all that is pretty easy to write down so that when the incident management team comes, and they come every other week, right? Every second week you get a new one. We just figured we're going to hand them another copy of the plan or show them the link on our website.
Right. Yeah, because I'm putting together like a shelter plan similar to that, where all of our shelter locations will have all that contact information, and then it's also going to be annexed into the our emergency operations plan that we're updating right now too. So I want to, I'm excited to see that and be able to work off of that and maybe even annex that into our plan.
Yeah, and one thing in there, we anticipate there are going to be a lot of revisions to both those plans. And one of the revisions we anticipate is that they're going to change the name for Code Red, and you're going to tell me what it is so that I can put it in the plan, right? Or Trinity or whatever it's going to be.
It's in my report out, and I haven't figured it out yet, but we'll get close.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Then we'll tell Timber down there at Trinity Journal that it's not public knowledge yet. Okay. Any questions for Carol?
I do.
Yes.
Carol, as a part, I guess, kind of comes in with your fuels reduction plan, but you've expressed at multiple meetings that kind of recent about fuels at Hopewell Dump and also the county's fuel maintenance ordinance. Are those loops closed? Because I'm not hearing anything.
I was kind of waiting for Shay and Kelly to bring the Hobel up for the RCD report. I was going to ask them about Hobel then.
Okay.
As far as the vegetation management ordinance goes, that's not really in our fuel management plan. A fuel management plan pretty much assumes that we're going to provide public education about defensible space to individual homeowners, and then they're going to have to do their part. Mostly what we're trying to do is the roadside fuel breaks and the ridgetop fuel breaks.
Oh, okay, well then I'll just ask that question aside from your management plan. Has that loop been closed? I mean, David's not on the meeting. Is there something else that?
No, I don't know what the status is of Hobel. Do you know, Kelly?
No, I mean the management ordinance.
Oh, I don't have any idea.
Okay.
The current direction, I think, that we've gotten, because we've had, several residents ask what to do when, for example, their neighbor's property has an accumulation of fuels. And so what we've been directed to say is, use the code complaint form, but don't hold your breath.
I thought, Jill, I thought that you had reported out at a earlier fire safe council, and it might have been, I don't know. I thought Trent was working on that.
Yeah, he was. And so then when David's been here, he's been the one that's kind of in that loop. And the last thing I heard from Trent was he was working with council. But I didn't know if a lot of times you know more than I do. So,
No,
sometimes.
last I know that, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it was Trent and David.
Okay, all out.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to Jill, Board of Supervisors.
Okay, well, I guess the only thing I would say is I would just touch back on that, that draft document that is out, the Northwest Forest Management Plan Amendment, draft EIS. And so I believe that is a 90-day comment period because it's such a large document. That's not something that I'm equipped. I need industry to help me with language to make impactful comments on something like that. And I just figured there's people in this meeting that also know how to do that. And so I would encourage that you do. Because, you know, to Jacqueline's point, the fact that a bunch of supervisors sat on this meeting and talked about it and expressed our local concerns and our local situations, she continued to stress, that's great, and it's not enough. Thank you for sharing, and you've got to share it formally. So I just would hope that it's not one of those things kind of like the insurance issue we were talking about, where we're kind of left off the radar because we don't bother to comment. And I personally need help to figure out how to impactfully comment. Okay.
Well, I guess informally, I would, if you really want like a deep dive in it, next person to talk to. Sure. I haven't reviewed it yet personally, but this is probably something we should look into because it would impact our business. So, but we haven't yet dove into that.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. Any questions for Jill? Larry, you got your hand up?
You might.
Yeah, I just want to say to Jill that, you know, it's a very big document, very complicated. I think you're going to have to either get a volunteer or assign somebody for the board to review the document for you and then help you write the comments that way. Focused on those parts of the plan that would have a direct impact on the county.
Okay, thank you for that.
We did something similar to that with the resource management plan that the BLM was putting together with regard to the Weaverville Community Forest Steering Committee, where we kind of like picked it apart and then chose the pieces that would be most applicable to comment on from a group like that, in order to create comments that were like very limited to those particular areas, because it was also a very large, like 900-page document.
Right, for sure. Okay, good. And then at Kelly's reminder, I should probably share out the tub grinder's been dealt with from or it is now being, kind of was and is. The CAO asked us to approve his placement of that tub grinder on an auction sale list. And so it's a sensitive subject because we spent $500,000 on that. And at the time, you know, the word was that between the RCD and the watershed, there would be enough like renting of that equipment to justify the purchase. And over time, we would, as a county, recoup the cost. So the reality has been that, you know, the need for a Class A license to drive it, the detailed high-level training that's required for somebody to run something that is so massive, you know, and then there were, I think, some maintenance issues with it, and all of those pieces together, the you know, the public is very unhappy I've gotten lots of complaints. Why do we see that very expensive piece of equipment just sit? And it's really disappointing. But at the same time, you know, my point would be to have some grace and patience for those who, I guess, did the best research they could at the time, and it just didn't turn out like they thought. Now the hope will be what we recoup as much out of it again as what we put into it. I appreciate that the CEO is kind of hauling it and not letting more time pass, but that's the latest on the tub grinder.
Tara Jones had actually talked about how somehow being able to put that to use as well for some of these larger landscape level projects on Forest Service lands, and whether that was some sort of rental situation through the Good Neighbor Authority agreement that you guys have or whatever. There was some desire to try to make that happen. I know that on our end, it really comes down to those logistics of whether or not, you know, we can mobilize the thing, and we've got professional people that can actually like put it to use and do that on a consistent level to be able to, you know, to be able to make sure that we have, you know, gainful employment. So I think, you know, it is very unfortunate to lose as a resource, but the implementation of it, I can understand how challenging that must have been, because it's not like just renting a chipper or something, you know, that you can just drag behind a pickup truck.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other issue is that, I mean, who would want to rent it when the county can't even use it on their own property, like at Hobel Dump? You know, they had it up here and used it for a few days, and there's still huge piles of stuff. So if the county can't even deal with their own material, then why would someone want to rent it and pay the county staff when they can't show that they can operate it?
Okay, anything else? Okay. We'll move on to me. So, as most of you know, we had an earthquake over on the coast today. My first call is to Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, especially over in that area, because Hayfork really felt that pretty good jolt today. I did get a response back from John from Humboldt Bay saying that initial inspection of the dam revealed no issues. They're conducting a more thorough inspection, and will let me know if they end up, you know, finding anything. I haven't heard back. The only other damage that we noted was some power outage, and that was pretty quick. TPUD had I don't know if it was more of a switching thing, but they had the power back on shortly after. So storm damage from this last atmospheric river. I believe that we had one little slip out for DOT. We had a lot of issues up in North County with power outages, a lot of trees down. We decided not to declare any disaster declaration for that particular storm. Met with all of the emergency managers in the state yesterday with Cal OES director, and discussed a lot of the issues that counties are having with state and federal with FEMA. It was nice, we actually had a FEMA rep there, so we could actually talk about our displeasures with right to the government feds. And so it was a great summit. We do this every year. A lot of good information came out. I can say that bigger cities have a lot bigger problems. And so looking at our region 3, we're pretty tight communities, and you know, we stick together, and we have really good representation from the state. So there's some new things coming into play with grants and grant management, just formats that are changing. But that was a good That was a good meeting. As Carol mentioned, about the code red, and I brought this up at Disaster Council. Our plans are to transfer from our code red emergency alerting platform over to Rave. Rave is for a lot of different options, but one of the main things is Rave has a really good access and functional needs registry, to where when people sign up for Rave, there's a lot of information that they can put on there that we can share with our first responders and our sheriff's department in case they can't evacuate, or if they have any issues evacuating, if there's any disabilities that we need to be aware of. We can actually even send a text back to them to make sure that they got out safely. And if they weren't able to get out, we know where to send our responses. There's a lot of information on there for animal rescue, large animals, what kind of resources they would need for not only evacuating, but for shelter needs. So this whole platform and this change with that, and the other half of this that I brought up at Disaster Council was our zones. We have 370 different zones in the county, and we're transferring that zone management over to Genesis. Genesis is, if you go to the Genesis website, all of most of the counties in California use Genesis for their zone management. And so when you look at that map of Northern California, you've got Del Norte, Humboldt, Mendocino, Siskiyou, Shasta, Tehama. You can see all of their zones right there. And then there's this island right in the middle, and that's Trinity County. So we're fixing that. And how I'm doing that is Rave is paid for by Cal OES, by the state. So the money that we're saving from not using Code Red, we're going to use to pay for Genesis for our zone management. And this way, when incident management teams come into the county for a large scale event, they already have access to our zones. I will be working together closely with Skylar and to get all of that implemented over. And this whole platform, what I'm trying to do is I want to brand this so we don't have names like Code Red and Rave, Genesis. We want to brand this into what I'm calling Ready Trinity. And so people will go to Ready Trinity, and that will be all of the resources. That'll be places where they can get all their information. They can find out if their zone is in any kind of evacuation warning or order. They can sign up for these programs. They can get information on help with evacuation, what kind of things that they should be taking with them. And that way it's all set up under one site. I'm hoping that with the county moving into a new platform for a county website, that'll be linked into where, but I'm still kind of working with everybody on that. And don't quote me on the Ready Trinity name. We've put together a working group to discuss this and the transition of how we're going to do that. Prior to doing that, we're going to be doing a Code Red test alert for the entire county. That'll give us accurate information on how many people are signed up on Code Red, how many numbers are no longer viable, so we can kind of purge that and clean that. And then we will take all that information and transfer it over into Rave. But we're still really wanting people to sign up, go to the Rave site, well, when we have it set up as Ready Trinity, because we want to make sure that they put all of their additional information in. There's a lot more functions that we can use with it. Genesis has a lot of different functions within that they can add layers to our zones to show traffic patterns. Skylar and I were talking about it the other day for evacuation routes and areas to pinpoint where we don't want to send people because traffic always seems to be higher in those areas. Talking with Yuba County yesterday, they use the same platform, and There's also ways to predict wildfire and different types of, well, basically wildfire kind of scenarios where they can look at weather patterns and topography, and you can simulate wildfire scenarios to see where it's going to, which way it's going to travel. There's a lot of useful tools in this that we're just kind of scratching the surface on right now. So that's going to be something that I'll be working on a lot over the next few months. And our plan is to have this up and running before fire season. So, because our code red runs out June 30th, our contract with them. And I mean, if I have to, I will extend the contract for another year, but I'd really like to see us get this moved over. So we're putting a whole work group together within HHS to sit down, and with the sheriff's department. I went to the sheriff's department first, and they've been wanting this for years. So they wanted it originally, and the cost was just too much, from what I understand. So
you said the money that we wouldn't be putting into Code Red any longer will now go to this, but if we couldn't afford this in the first place, how are we doing?
We couldn't afford the original platform, from what I understand with Genesis. What I was told was hundreds of thousands of dollars, because they were going to be the one building all of our routes and all of that. I'm sorry, not our routes, but our zones. So now we're looking at management of this, of Genesis, for less than 50% of what we're paying for Code Red right now. So we're actually saving money. We're not going to pay for Rave because it's free. The state's paying for it. And Genesis is costing us, less than 50%. So we're able to actually increase what we have with Genesis and maybe get more layers. And I mean, and the cost doesn't come out of the cost is coming out of our emergency management grant anyway. So it's not I think, well, that's a match grant. So 50% of that cost does come out of my budget. But
so did all that work that you put into Code Red feed into this and
yes.
inform it?
Yeah.
So we didn't really spin our wheels. It was a good.
Oh, no. This Code Red has, they just don't have a lot of extra layers and platforms that I really want to see our alerting go out to, and the information from our residents. We have such a high, elderly population, and I want to make sure that the sheriff department has accurate information, so they know exactly if we put an area into a mandatory evacuation. Literally, when you click on that zone, balloons will start popping up at different colors, and it'll tell us right there, do they have access and functional needs issues? Are they not able to get out? And we can literally send deputies there immediately to get people out of there. So it's going to be a great program. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be well worth it in the long run. We got our third siren up. Okay, hi, Carol, go ahead.
No, so I think I understood you to say earlier that you can transfer the valid phone numbers from Code Red over to this, whatever you're going to call it, Ready Trinity, right? People don't necessarily have to sign up all over again.
They don't have to sign up all over again. We're hoping it's all going to transfer over. We're going to request and promote that people do go in and sign up, so we have more information. When they sign up for Code Red, all we got is their address and their phone number. We have no idea if they have any evacuation restrictions, needs, if they have large animals that we would need help evacuating, things like that. We can put all that. We can put stuff in there. They can list things even if they have breathing issues. If we're going to have high smoke, warnings and areas, we can literally reach out to them to let them know that the air quality is going to be poor, and that to kind of alert them ahead of time. All of these things can pop up in different categories that we can search.
But if they're happy with their Code Red notification, they don't have to do anything all over again.
They shouldn't have to, no. Yeah, but
just to answer Jill's question, so if people are happy with code red, then, you know, all that effort wasn't wasted. You're just gonna transfer it over.
Yeah, and like I say, I think that it's going to, and I have no idea until we do this test alert, how many residents in the county are actually on code red. But I've been working with Siskiyou County because they did this very same thing. And so they're helping me with the steps to get everything transferred over, along with the people at Rave.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking so much necessarily as to how happy people are or are not with Code Red yet, because I don't think that we've had sufficient opportunity to really know that necessarily. I was thinking more in terms of the messaging. We worked so hard at messaging Code Red, and now we're going to message something entirely different. That's not ideal, but I see why it has so many advantages.
It was, I've been thinking about it a lot.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I really wanted to do as soon as I came into this project was to, or even to this position, was to create some sort of access and functional needs. And that flows right into our emergency operations plan. We just got the review back from the state, and 2/3 of the review recommendations all had to do with sheltering and access and functional needs, knowing that we have an elderly community. So we have no idea. The only thing we have to go off of right now is if we go into put an area into evacuation order, as long as the deputies know that there are people in that area that aren't going to be able to get out on their own, but nobody else knows. We don't have anywhere that says, other than going to adult protective services and, hey, do you have any clients in this area that we should be concerned about? We'll have all of that information, and we can communicate back and forth with them specifically without having to send out more alerts. We can specifically reach out to individual people and check in with them and make sure that they got out. So there's, I think it's going to be a great program. So
thank you for that work.
Yeah, and like I say, in the emergency operations plan, we got our review back, and we're putting a working group together for that to get that updated. That's not something that'll go back to the state for final review. It's just we sent it to the state for their recommendations. The state likes to see, they asked for 10 a year, and we went ahead and volunteered ours because it hadn't been reviewed in 5 years. And so we just we just had a big meeting with them, and a lot of things that we'll be adding into it in the way of AFN and sheltering, and working with some of our other communities, non-English speaking, different cultural different issues that we may have through messaging and things like that. So it brings up a lot of other good functions. And with this new system, we can send it out in any language. The first thing I said is, does it do Hmong? And they came back and said, yes, it'll go out in Hmong. So we can specifically set up areas to have that go out in different languages. So Cindy, Cindy's still on there. We'll be in touch, Cindy, because you're going to be a big part of this one, you and Dina.
Thank you.
All right, and that is my report out. I have to have another meeting at HHS at 3 o'clock, so I'm going to be slipping out of here. Gina, you have a question? Gina, you got your hand up?
I guess I should unmute. I'm sorry. Questions for Salyer. The Salyer post office, I was looking for that map you said. It had talked about all the different post offices having it, the evac or some. I don't see a map in the Salyer PO.
I think I may still have that one in my office. I didn't get down that far.
Okay.
And I just sent a bunch of stuff down to Salyer a couple weeks ago. I apologize. I should have thought about that, but I've been trying to go down and do those myself. But thank you for the reminder. I have a couple of maps that are zone maps that I still have in my office that are waiting to be laminated. So we'll get that down to you.
Okay, thank you. One other question for Salyer. I went down during the atmospheric river, or prior actually, looking for sand. There is none. Sue said the bags were put away. And I don't know that all the sand got used up. You supplied a pile of sand last year, I think it was. Could we get some more?
I will make I can make a call. That was donated by one of the local contractors there.
Okay.
And I did reach out to them, and I'm pretty sure that I got a message back that you guys had bags, but maybe they just they weren't putting them out so people could just pull in and grab them.
They were originally, but when that new utility that came in for the storm, Heidi Harris helped you get that established, and we went down. The power was out here for a couple of days. That thing was running, and it looks good right there. I don't think it was in the same location as where the pile of sand was, but it's definitely there's no pile of sand there anymore. So if we can get another one.
Okay, I'll I'll figure out who I got that from and see if I can get them to donate another pile, because I know we're not out of the woods yet.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Right. Gina, thank you, or Gina, thank you so much for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
I'm going to go ahead and actually RCD is up, and I will leave you to this.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to check in with directors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Philip. Do you want to go ahead and start?
Sure. So for the implementation side, our in-house crews finished downriver chipping. That's by Hawkins Bar and Sawyer for the most part. We've also been starting to burn, which is great. We led burns on SPI land over in Browns Mountain. Around like 52 acres have been bioburned, which is great. And we also have help from partners like BLM and Watershed Center. So grateful for that. We've also been helping our partners burn over on Jackass Ridge and also over in Reading Indian Creek with Watershed, Forest Service, and BLM. We're also doing fuels reduction work on the State Lands Commission land over by Shasta Springs Trail, as well as some piling and being done in JC. And then our contractors finished a 200-acre fuels reduction project in the Lake Forest area.
Carol has,
Oh,
Carol, do you have your
sorry.
hand raised?
Yeah, well, when you get done, Shay.
I'm almost there. And then also the contractors have finished around 42 acres of fuels reduction reading.
And then our staffing. You want to talk about the staffing? Just meaning like when we're going to go on.
Oh yeah. Sorry. We're gonna lay the crews, in-house crews off on December 12th for the holidays, and they should be back on in January 6th to help with burning with partners. I'm sorry.
Shay, do you have a schedule for when you would be burning the piles at the Trinity Lake Knolls?
No, we're starting to, I think we're looking at the smoke management plan for that right now. I'm gonna talk with Dave when he gets back today. I can mention back to him what the plan is for that.
Okay, yeah, because we have some pretty nervous homeowners because those piles are pretty close to their houses. So, we want to have some of our fire engines sitting there when you guys are burning, so they don't panic. So if you can let me know, that would be great.
That sounds great. Thanks, Carol.
Crystal, do you have anything to report out?
Yeah. So we've started working on the 2025 update for the CWPP, and this stands for, I'm sure you all know, Community Wildfire Protection Program. And so I've been translating the notes taken on our paper printed community maps that have our previous projects on them. And I've been taking the new notes and digitizing them into a new map document. And just been working on getting the most, the highest priorities in order, but that'll come more towards the end. But right now I'm just digitizing what people have said, where they need fuel breaks and where people have requested road work, and new problems and old existing problems that need to be addressed that have been promised to be addressed, and just highlighting those especially. And yeah, and Skylar's helped me quite a bit with that.
Thanks, Kristen. Anything from the Annalise?
No, I've just been helping work on some of the Firewise Fair outreach material, like the logo and poster, and still continue working on the climate vulnerability assessment. So, yeah.
Just diving into the Firewise Fair and speaking with the paperwork volunteer fire department chief Leroy, starting conversations on that, and then also helping out with the CWPP and updates and a myriad of other projects with Skylar.
Great. We have quite a contingent. Miles, anything to add?
We have kind of been trying to update our social media game to promote Fire Safe Council programs as well as other agencies programs, and a part of this is promoting or talking about the people who are a part of the Fire Safe Council. Some people may have seen some posts talking about Skylar and Bethany. So I may be reaching out to some people on this call at some point, since you on this call and in the room, since you all are a part of the Fire Safe Council, to talk about the work that you do.
Thanks, Miles. Hey, Dylan, I know you're not feeling well, but could you give us a brief update on the Trinity Alps Access Project? Dylan, are you there?
Oh, sorry, I was not unmuting there.
There we go.
You got me? All right. Yes, so it looks like Eric and I will be going out next Wednesday to assess some sites on that. And that's pretty much all I have at this point. Is we're just going to go and assess some sites, and David from Trinity County sent over the road plan that he has. I don't see Arville there, but thanks to him for getting that to us. I forwarded that to Eric, and yeah, we'll be moving forward assessing site next week. So I'll be out there Wednesday.
Great, thanks, Dylan.
So just generally, what is that plan?
So the first partner-led NEPA that we were supposed to dive into with the wildfire crisis strategy funding was meant to have been the Weaverville fuel break project. But because that funding got held up in an amendment that hasn't been executed yet, we've pivoted to some other funding that we had in the original round of stewardship agreement funding that we had. That funding was meant to be for environmental compliance on either the monument fire or the river complex. And so we just had talked with folks at the staff at the forest and decided that we should focus on what Tara Jones had sort of tasked us with our second, what would have been our second partner-led NEPA. And that is basically to address roads issues and fuel break potential for pretty much all the roads accessing the Trinity Alps. And it is our intention to not only do have it be it was meant to have a green timber sale component, fuels reduction, tied in with ridgetop fuels, and some other planning that had been going on between both the Forest Service and SPI lands, since it's a lot of that, those roads go through the checkerboard up in the North Lake area. There will be some coordination with those two entities as we're moving that forward, but it also will be a project that we're looking at that would be companion project to some of the funding that we received through the most recent Forest Health project, which is a North County project that basically addresses some of those same roads, but through the lower end of those roads in the private lands, both on, you know, SPI and timber production zone lands, but also in just private lands that happen to be impacted by those roads. So my goal would also to be address the quality of some of the road work there and you know, sediment source issues that we have, and you know, just accessibility with those roads. So that's the intent of the project.
It seems like, doesn't it overlap with the Trinity Roads partnership that Bethany had done the CEQA on?
That's right, but that is all on private.
Okay, so this is just federal.
Yeah.
So you guys know we got 3 feet of snow above by like 4,000 feet, and it hasn't melted. So I don't know where you're gonna go anywhere near the Alps.
Not sure, that's up to Dylan and Eric.
I mean, my property's at, you know, below 3,000, and there's still a lot of snow on the ground. You know, if I hadn't plowed my driveway, you couldn't get to my house. So I'm not sure where you're going. Okay, I would really like to, you know, be in the loop as far as what that project is.
Yeah,
Because
this is just in its like most infant kind of level planning at this point. You know, we obviously will be bringing in the collaborative group and all that kind of stuff as we're starting to move forward, but we need to identify primarily the at least, you know, kind of where the roads are and to what extent we have the ability to work on you know, those roads. So we intended to look at everything pretty much from Granite Peak all the way up to Scott Mountain, really. So we'll see how that ties also in with the North Trinity County risk reduction project as well.
right.
So, and then to your other question about Hopewell Dump, I met with Skylar and Shay yesterday to go over our draft budget that's going to the Humboldt County RCD, who is basically the financial sponsor for the North Coast Resource Conservation District Collaboratives block grant, $6 million grant that I've discussed. That's technically not a grant, it's more of a direct contract to the North Coast RCD Collaborative. But Hopewell Dump is the highest project on our priority list. We're also looking at some other things like Fire Safe Council coordination funding and some capacity building and planning, but a fair bit of implementation. And so the timeline on that looks to be something like compiling all the different districts' budgets, reconciling the budget probably in the January, February timeframe, and we're hoping to be implementing on that project, on those like at least the initial round of identified projects across the region in the early part of next year's field season. So that's our intent, is to be moving that forward. We're also looking at funding the Weaverville BFD and their defensible space program as another high priority project within that. And we have a fairly significant chunk of funding that we'll be able to utilize to prioritize other, you know, less easily funded projects moving into the duration of that of the overall project, which is a 5-year project. So I believe that it wraps in 2029. So that's my report.
Okay, thank you. just right now, all I mean, everything at the dump is under a pile of snow, so.
Yeah. We weren't, they're kind of moving a little bit slowly and deliberately on how they're doing their budgeting, and most of this stuff is coming down as requests from the State Coastal Conservancy, who's their funding source. So because of that, we're doing our due diligence, and you know, I think, you know, obviously your project is the first one we'll be getting onto. Once we have an agreement with Humboldt County RCD directly, and then we can start planning that work for early next year.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that.
You bet.
Any other questions for Trinity County RCD? Seeing none. Dave, would you like to go next for Trinity PUD?
Yeah, sure. I'll make it quick. Yeah, we did have a quake today that did cause an outage over in Hayfork. That we have our recloser set to non-fire settings now, meaning they'll reclose 3 times, but some wire got wrapped up there, and luckily we had crews over there that restored power within half hour, I think. This last storm, we're still cleaning up from that. You know, it was where you were at in the county that mattered on the storm. It was, you know, 15 to 1600 feet could have saw 8 inches of snow, and 2,500 feet saw 0. So the damage was only where we got the heavy wet snow. The leaves were still on most of the trees, so that added to the breakage rate. Just a reminder, a lot of that stuff is going to be down fuel once it is dried back out. I saw a lot of a lot of green trees snapped off that all over the forest. So that's going to be a bit of contention once it starts drying back out this spring. RAP project, Western Area Power Association, who is the lead on that project. Lawyers had some questions about the final document, again pushed, it looks like, to, I don't even know, this is in the lawyer hands now, January, February for public comment now. That's what I've been told by WAPA's lawyers. So yeah, looking forward to that. I think it's has to do with administration changes too, and how that sometimes the document has to be less than 300 pages, and it has to be in appendices, and then the appendices are too big. Now you got to change it back to all inclusive in one document. Again, I'll wait to see that document when I see it myself. I have not seen a copy of that myself. So grants, we did get a little bit of a heads up from the Community Wildfire Defense Grant saying that, yeah, you're not forgotten. Agreements still are in place. We're waiting for those to continue work on the hazard tree abatement stuff and the shaded field breaks that we have planned. We did have a field day with the CPUC's Wildfire Safety Advisory Board on November 9th. They had half of the board members, I believe not enough to make a quorum to where we could just all do it in one trip. A few other PUD board members, and this was a field trip to, they wanted to see firsthand what we're dealing with in Trinity County for our wildfire mitigation plans that we're required to do by the CPUC. So they're an advisory board, but they still have a bit of pull in the capital. So it was nice to have some people from the city, from Sacramento area up here to show them just what we're dealing with on the ground. So that's about it. We're geared up for winter. One last comment with the drum chipper. I guess I would hate to see that thing get surplused out of this county. It seems like the county could, I don't know, that that's such an asset to have here, and the county has properties where, you know, it's not so much towing it around. I don't think that's the answer. It's maybe having it stationed 6 months at a time or a year at a time in the county, and having fuels brought to that, and, you know, hedgerowing the chips and making, you know, compost out of it or something. I don't know. It just seems like a real waste if that thing goes for a loss, and not just the loss of money, but the loss of that piece of equipment in this county. So that's my 2 cents. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Dave. Does anybody have any questions?
No, but I just want to say the PUD crews were awesome. I mean, the breakage up here was amazing, and I know the power was out for a long time, but thank you, Dave. Your guys did a really great job.
Thanks, Carol. I agree. That was, you know, we didn't call for any mutual aid or anything. That was all in-house crews that got the power back on. So thanks.
Okay, great. Dina, would you like to provide an update for the Sunday?
Sure, glad to do it. First thing I wanted to say is that this committee is very valuable for many reasons. It allows the agencies and community reps to interact, and for those of us in our communities, it is an opportunity for us to keep our communities informed about what is going on. And I know that sometimes it seems like it's redundant to you, but it's news to us. And so I really think that this group is very, very important to Trinity County. And I'm really pleased to announce we have no update.
Thank you, Dina. Okay, Bob, would you like to provide an update for the Forest Service?
Sure. It'll be real general because, you know, some of the guys have greater details than what I've got, but ongoing work in terms of prescribed burning. We had a real nice broadcast burn out at Jackass Ridge. Many partners were there. I think they accomplished about 30 acres before we had to call it. And just kind of looking at the schedule we got going on this week, doing pile burns out of Pettyjohn and the Lake Forest plantations. There's going to be more of that type of activity going on throughout the month and just in the months to come. And obviously we got to talking about the scoping on the North Trinity project. Carol, to avoid saying the long title of the word, I've just been saying North Trinity project. I feel your pain. But kind of going with that, a few things just to kind of talk about with this. The idea of with the wildfire crisis strategy and the team members on that core team being absorbed into the 2 forests, that's not going to affect WCS work on the Trinity landscape. What it's doing is it's embedding us directly into the forest organizations. So that work is going to continue. It's a high priority for the Forest Service and for the USDA all the way up to the top. So don't have any worries about that, and that's not what's causing what appears to be a faster timeline on the North Trinity project. So on that note, I don't want to belabor anything too much here, but just to be a few more specific things here to address some of the questions that were had in there. The NRA is doing the planning on North Trinity. And they are going to eventually be transitioning the overall work on that to the TRMU. So the bulk of it just kind of made sense organizationally, since the lake is so close to all of the other lands in the TRMU, that's going to be done that way. And I would just, first of all, I really appreciate people's candor and asking questions about that. I know that, you know, this is right where y'all live. So I encourage you again, reach out to Sarah, reach out to Callan. I think you're going to see more specifics come up as feedback comes in once the EA comes around. So, but yeah, just reach out to them. If you guys want to get a letter out to them or something in writing, please do that. That'll inform the details to come. And that is in a report.
Thank you, Bob. Does anybody have any questions for Bob? Okay, seeing none. Last but not least, Gina, do you have an update for the Willow Creek Fire Safe Council?
I do. I'm still here. I enjoy hearing everybody else's reports. It's good. And this gives me time to write notes, but now if I can read them scribbly notes. I am happy to report the Willow Creek Fire Safe Council has filled out, sent in, and received back our 2024-25 Firewise certification. So I really appreciated that survey form that grassroots give people an opportunity to share their hours of in-kind service or whatever that kind of generated towards the overall hours. That was impressive. That was fun. I'm looking forward to this next year. Another thing that has been completed, happy to say, is our report for the CAL FIRE storm recovery. We are complete and everything is sent in. And we're just 21 days shy of exactly 3 years when that snowdown happened. And that was how that storm recovery grant came about. So I think that Stabella at the county level will be consolidating our information with Trinity counties. And then I'm really excited to see how, like, what did we accomplish? Everyone was busy. There was some excellent work done by everyone. So that's pretty exciting. Along the line of grants, our CWDG quarterly meeting happened yesterday, and it was very informative hearing the statistics of how many homes were treated and the work that's been done in our, strategic planning for our next phase. And again, it's crazy because, as you know, our Fire Safe Council takes in 2 counties. So Salyer, Hawkins Bar, and Burnt Ranch is definitely within the Trinity County's RCD for those accomplishments, for the upcoming CWDG. So it's really exciting to hear the updated reports and what's actually being done. We have some more exciting news. The council has decided to go with hiring a paid position, temporary, for an admin assistant. It will be real minimal, 20 hours a week, but it will help us stay organized. If we're going to be continuing to grow, we need help. And so that person, and we've had some excellent help show up, some of our contractors, and this will just be moving right along, future transitioning. And that's been a long time coming. So that is really exciting for the Willow Creek Fire Safe Council. And we have a meeting tonight. It's Zoom only, and that starts at 6. And so it seems like I'm just glad that we're kind of wrapping up the end of the year. It's exciting. It's sunny. We've gone through a few good storms already. We had an earthquake, and yeah. Thank you. That should be it, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Gina. Any questions for Gina? Okay, seeing none, that exhausts our project updates list. Was anyone left out, or are there any other project updates? Okay, hearing none, moving on to future discussion items. So we discussed prior about there being a presentation on the insurance survey and a draft letter to be presented to the council at the next meeting to send off to the County Board of Supervisors. And then also the potential for a draft letter on the Northwest Forest Plan. Is there anything else folks would like to add to the next meeting agenda? That will probably be a fair bit of time on its own, so I understand if not. Okey doke. All right. Well then, thank you so much to everyone who made it to 3/12. Our next meeting is going to be in the new year, January 23rd, 25. And everyone have a good rest of your year, and I look forward to seeing you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good holiday. Bye.
Thank you.
Everyone.